It was supposed to be just dinner, a quiet evening after a long day. But when Grady walked into that upscale restaurant downtown, everything stopped. The chatter faded, the smiles disappeared, and a single moment of silence turned into humiliation that would echo far beyond those walls. They told him he didn't belong there. Not because of what he wore, but because of who he was. What no one knew was that this moment of rejection would ignite something far bigger. A movement, a legacy, and a name that the world would one day honor. But how did it all begin? Grady was the kind of man who believed in doing things the right way. At 34, he had built his life from the ground up. No shortcuts, no favors, just hard work and quiet persistence. He ran a small creative agency in Atlanta, designing logos and marketing campaigns for local businesses. It wasn't glamorous, but it was his. Every client he gained felt like another brick in the foundation of the life he was building. Honest, earned, and dignified. He wasn't chasing fame or fortune. What mattered to him was respect, something he believed should come from character, not skin color. But deep down, he knew the world didn't always work that way. In his line of work, he'd seen the subtle ways people's eyes shifted, the extra questions, the cautious tones, small reminders that equality still came with conditions. Still, Grady stayed focused. He surrounded himself with people who saw his worth, not his race. And for the first time in years, life felt good. That weekend, after signing his biggest client yet, he decided to celebrate. A new restaurant had opened downtown, a place everyone was raving about, known for its luxury, its service, and its claim to welcome everyone. He'd driven past it a few times, always admiring the warm lights and laughter spilling from inside. This time, he told himself, he belonged there too. So he put on his best suit, took a deep breath, and walked through those glass doors, unaware that what waited for him inside would test not just his patience, but everything he believed about fairness, dignity, and belonging in a world still learning the meaning of equality. The moment Grady stepped inside, the warm light and soft jazz faded into something else. Silence. Conversations paused, forks clinked against plates, and eyes turned toward him. He gave a polite nod to the hostess, a young woman with a clipboard in hand, and said softly, "Table for one, please." Her smile faltered for just a second. Subtle, but enough. She looked past him, scanning the nearly empty dining room as if confirming something unseen. "Do you have a reservation, sir?" she asked, her tone polite but sharp around the edges. "I do," Grady replied, sliding his phone forward with the confirmation screen. She glanced at it, then at him, her hesitation lingering a little too long. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "It looks like there's been a mistake. We're fully booked tonight." Grady frowned. He looked past her again. Rows of empty tables gleamed under the golden light. Couples chatted quietly. Waiters moved smoothly between tables. "Fully booked? It didn't look that way." He kept his voice steady. "That's strange," he said, his tone calm but firm. "I got this confirmation an hour ago." The manager appeared before she could respond, an older man with a practiced smile and a look that didn't reach his eyes. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, though his gaze was already fixed on Grady. "No problem," Grady replied. "Just a reservation issue. I booked online." The manager's smile stiffened. "Ah, yes. We've had a system glitch today. Unfortunately, sir, we can't accommodate walk-ins right now." Grady's patience held, but inside, something cracked. He could feel it, that quiet, familiar sting. The one that comes when you realize the rules don't apply the same way for everyone. He glanced around again. 2 new guests, both white, had just walked in. No reservation. The hostess greeted them warmly and led them to a corner booth. Grady's jaw tightened. He didn't need to say a word. The truth was written across the room. He stood still for a moment, the air thick with quiet humiliation. He'd faced worse before, but somehow This hurt more. Maybe because he wasn't angry, just tired. Tired of pretending not to notice. Tired of smiling through it. But as he turned to leave, his reflection caught in the glass door. Behind him, laughter filled the room again. The same laughter that had vanished when he walked in. Something inside him shifted. He took one last look at the restaurant's name etched on the glass, bold, elegant letters shining under the soft light, and he made himself a promise. He would never forget this moment, because some moments don't just bruise your pride. They awaken your purpose. And for Grady, that night wasn't an ending. It was the start of something far bigger than one dinner, one insult, or one restaurant. That night, Grady didn't sleep. The scene replayed in his mind like a broken film. The stares, the whispers, the smirk on the manager's face as he was turned away. He wanted to forget it, but he couldn't. Because it wasn't just dinner that had been denied. It was dignity. By morning, the sting had hardened into purpose. Grady drafted a post on social media, short but deliberate. Last night, I was refused service at restaurant name because of my skin color. This isn't 1960. This is 2025. He hesitated before hitting post, then did it anyway. Within hours, his phone buzzed nonstop. Comments poured in. Disbelief, outrage, solidarity. Photos of the restaurant spread across platforms. Hashtags rising like wildfire. Local reporters reached out. Then national ones. What had begun as humiliation was turning into a spotlight, and Grady, unwillingly, was standing in the center of it. The restaurant denied it, of course. They called it a misunderstanding, claimed overbooking, issued a generic apology. But the public wasn't buying it. Witnesses came forward, customers who'd seen what happened, who admitted they'd stayed silent that night but couldn't anymore. The truth was undeniable now. Days turned into weeks. Protests gathered outside those same glass doors that once closed in his face. The restaurant tried to silence the noise, deleting reviews, hiring lawyers, pleading for calm. But it was too late. Grady hadn't just exposed an incident. He'd uncovered a wound that ran deeper, a reminder that discrimination didn't need slurs or violence to exist. Sometimes it hid behind politeness and policy. Then came the breaking point. The restaurant's investors withdrew, the brand collapsed under pressure, and the space shut down. The sign came down one morning, quiet, unceremonious, leaving only the reflection of what had been. And as Grady stood across the street, watching workers remove the letters, he didn't feel triumph, just silence. Heavy, bittersweet silence. Because sometimes justice doesn't roar. It whispers through the ruins of what tried to silence you. Months later, the building reopened, but not as the restaurant that had once turned Grady away. The new sign above the door read Grady's Table. Not a chain, not a corporation, but a community-owned cafe started in his honor. He hadn't asked for it. In fact, when local activists approached him with the idea, he hesitated. He wasn't looking to be a symbol, but they told him something that stayed with him. What happened to you isn't just yours anymore. It's everyone's reminder. So he agreed. Not out of pride, but out of purpose. Grady's Table became more than a restaurant. It became a space where stories were shared, meals were served without judgment, and young black entrepreneurs found mentorship and opportunity. The same door that had once been closed on him was now open to everyone. News outlets covered it as a redemption story. Social media called it poetic justice. But for Grady, it was something quieter. Healing. Each plate served, each customer welcomed, each conversation held around those tables became a small victory against the silence that once defined that place. Still, he knew this wasn't the end. For every Grady who spoke up, there were thousands who still swallowed their pain. afraid or unheard. The fight against discrimination wasn't over. It had simply changed its disguise. Standing by the window one evening, watching people dine, laugh, and live freely, Grady realized something simple yet profound. Sometimes, the loudest revolution begins with dignity and a seat at the table. Because, in a world still divided by walls, every open door matters, every voice matters, every story matters. And as the lights of Grady's table glowed across the street, a question remained. How many more doors need to be closed before we finally learn to open them for good? Don't miss more powerful real-life stories. Hit subscribe now.